You should specialise. Focus on one thing and become an expert in your field. And you should keep your options open by learning lots of things. Do either of those phrases sound familiar? Which one should you believe? In the 15th century, Renaissance man Leon Battista Alberti said, "A man can do all things if he but wills them." And I believe that's still true for both men and women alike. Now you might recognise the term Renaissance man, or its more modern synonym, polymath. It was most famously used to describe Leonardo da Vinci, a person whose areas of interest included anatomy, painting, architecture, science, music, mathematics, engineering, literature, and invention. And there's many, many more. So it's certainly safe to say that he was not a specialist. Yet he was held in high regard by all of his peers and is still regarded as a universal genius. By remaining open to all forms of knowledge, Da Vinci could give the world the Mona Lisa, as well as designs for inventions that were only conceived to be possible 4 centuries after his death. More recently, there was Thomas Young, described as the last man who knew everything, which is a pretty killer title. He worked in the fields of physics, physiology, music, and Egyptology, to mention a few. His self-described most important discovery was the wave theory of light, a scientific breakthrough so significant it's still being taught in science lessons today. And whilst many people might have seen this as their life's work, it was merely another bullet point on Young's long list of achievements. If not for his polymathic traits, he would not have been one of the key contributors to the deciphering of the Rosetta Stone, which subsequently led to the translation of ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics. Today, polymaths and their collective hunger for knowledge are seen more as a novelty, someone you would put on a quiz show or call on to settle a debate, rather than being one of the leading minds in their field. Throughout our young lives, we're told to focus on those areas in which we excel, becoming naturally specialised. So, this could potentially mean that we're in a society of specialisation. An example of this being Barry C. Barish, one of the 3 physicists who was recently awarded the Nobel Prize for his contributions to the discovery of gravitational waves. He has spent his entire life working in the field of physics. So yes, it's partly true that we do live in a society of specialisation. Throughout our young lives, we start off with a breadth of knowledge. Our eager young minds are aghast at what the world has to offer. However, soon we're told that we must pick some subjects that we are good at or ones that we remember favourably. Finally, we become specialised, focusing our minds on one specific field, with everything else being labelled as a hobby. So is it still possible to be a polymath in that instance? I believe so, but not in the same way as Leonardo da Vinci, Thomas Young, or those many other generalists of the past. We need a modern framework, a modern definition, a modern renaissance. In our current society, structured education is defined by the needs of the companies that its students will ascend to. You learn direction to be a director, or programming to be a programmer, and so on, rather than picking up as many different subjects as you would like. This has changed over time, primarily due to the fact that we've become a lot more smarter as a society. We have intellectually advanced to the point where the simpler problems of the past have become much more complex, which can be seen from the more streamlined discoveries of Thomas Young compared to Leonardo da Vinci, with the former being able to truly focus on fewer subjects than the latter. So today, specialization seems to be the most important way and the most pertinent way that we can unlock the complex mysteries of each subject. However, whilst generalization cannot lead to the most innovative discoveries, neither can complete specialization. The most pressing issues are interdisciplinary, and whilst a specialist can benefit immensely from their knowledge of their field, they can be held back by this when working with those outside of it. Specialization, as the key pathway for learning, was founded at a time when we were more single-minded and our problems were narrower in scope. However, the constantly evolving technological landscape of the past 60 years has caused much to change in that regard. Using the internet as a tool for learning has changed the way in which we communicate and receive information. We are no longer solitary neurological beings, but a hive mind of infinitely expanding knowledge. If we are truly to unlock the innovative potential of our species, then collaboration is the key. The modern polymath is not like Leonardo da Vinci or Thomas Young. The modern polymath is a leader. So take the head of a small online magazine company. They would need to communicate creatively with the designers, technically with the web developers, linguistically with the writers, all the while using business prowess to determine the financial needs of the company and steer the magazine's content to the wants of its readers. To be able to express themselves adequately in all of those fields is no small feat. And whilst the head of this company must have a breadth of knowledge in order to be able to discuss thoroughly with each of these areas, being a world-leading expert in every single one of them would be an even greater and perhaps impossible task. The specialist needs the generalist just as much as the generalists need the specialists. The place for the generalists of today is to bridge the gap between those that specialize. So this can be seen from Stephen Fry. Now, he himself shares many polymathic traits. And as he once said regarding the polymath's natural inquisitiveness, you have this impulse to know, and therefore things stick to you. You put on, as it were, epistemological weight. I've always been fantastically greedy to know things. Now, I like this quote because it gives us an insight into the thought processes of a generalist. It is not a lack of commitment that steers them away from single subject learning, but rather the satisfaction they gain from expanding their knowledge banks. They don't learn for any specific reason, they simply enjoy it. Now, Stephen Fry isn't the only example, surely, but I picked him because he's both well known and also, as I said, this quote is perfect for the insight. You see, the polymath is like a hungry child, and the specialists of today are their parents, slaving away in the kitchen to provide a meal that will excite their senses. So, in his research paper, Being Interdisciplinary, Trading Zones in Cognitive Science, researcher Paul Fagard discusses the way in which the boundaries of study can limit the scope of people's cognition, given the breadth of many of today's problems. Fagard concludes that by facilitating interdisciplinary teaching it has caused the field of cognitive science to flourish. And this has been made possible by focusing on 5 key areas. People, those are our polymaths, eager to cross disciplinary boundaries. Places, where interdisciplinary collaboration is encouraged. Organisations, they foster the collaboration between disciplines. Ideas, these are the problems that combine areas of work. And methods, these are the solutions that require the input of polymaths. Now, whilst this structure was originally defined for education, it is just as pertinent for the working world as well. The key point that can be extrapolated from Paul Thagard's research is that places of work and education, along with the organisations that own them, need to facilitate the polymath. By creating a platform on which the generalist can do what they do best, it is possible that they will naturally place themselves to formulate a solution. This can be done by focusing on what Thagard defines as the ideas. If we make them the basis of everything we do, then it's possible that the polymaths will find this position and naturally solve the world's problems and innovate. An example? Steven Spielberg. For the filming of Schindler's List, there were at least 20 different departments, ranging from sound production to set design. Spielberg would have had to communicate with all of these incredibly differing fields in order to keep everyone in line with the creative vision of the project. A task he certainly succeeded in, with the film winning 7 Oscars, including 1 for Best Director. Going beyond just one film, Steven Spielberg epitomizes the way in which the collaborative efforts of today's polymaths can bring about change, with his work contributing to the founding of the new Hollywood era. Another example of a modern polymath would be Oprah Winfrey, thought by many to be the most influential woman in the world. As the CEO of both Harpo Productions and the Oprah Winfrey Network, she encompasses the same polymathic collaboration as Spielberg. However, it's not purely as the head of 2 companies that she truly shows the importance of working with others. This can be seen from her work as a public figure. She is hailed as bringing change to the talk show industry, and this has been attributed to a natural empathy of people's lives. She is a woman who has spent her entire life working towards personal and public expansion. She is a modern polymath. Now, you may all be sitting there thinking, Steven Spielberg, Oprah Winfrey, they're at the top of their industries. The only way I can be a generalist is to pay my dues as a specialist. However, all it takes is that thirst for more knowledge, the desire to do anything and everything. I myself would not be here today, standing in front of all of you, if not for collaboration and a constant desire to learn. I originally was specialised in computing, yet after having the opportunity to work with media and design students, I became much more involved in the arts. Long story short, after working on multiple art projects, one of which was with Hatain, I was given the opportunity to speak with all of you about generalisation and specialisation. So after all of this, you're probably wondering, which one is better? The truth is, we need both specialists and generalists to solve the complex issues of the future. In the past, the Renaissance man held a monopoly over the knowledge and discoveries of the world. They would collect all of the research and lead the charge in as many different areas as possible. And today, we are forced down a path of specialisation, even if we wish to discover as much as we can, with those that truly dedicate themselves to a singular field being able to solve many of the world's most pressing issues. In the very near future, however, we will face interdisciplinary minefields, where the boundaries between lines of study are blurred, and it requires more than just specialists in a singular field. We need to collaborate in order to find these solutions and push humanity to its intellectual limits. The future will not be centered around the question of specialists versus generalists. It will instead be centered around specialists and generalists. Thank you.